And it's a beautiful Monday morning. Hello and welcome to Today in the News on Vanguard Live. I am Precious Chukudi. We begin with the front pages of the papers this morning, starting off with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with subsidy removal. Federal government target plunged relief for workers. The writer says that to provide palliatives, pay 200,000 naira minimum wage to empower states to pay new wage. And we can also see at AU Summit in Kenya, some dignitaries in a photo. On page 23, adulterated aviation fuel floods Lagos, Kano, Abuja. 8,000 naira too small to ease pain of fuel subsidy removal. And that's coming from the informal sector workers. APC crisis, pressure mounts on Adamu Omisore to resign. And see inside, Naira hits new low at 820 Naira to a dollar as forex supply gaps persist. Electricity tariff, NEC 11 discos set for fresh public hearing. You can see that on page 8. On page 10, Terap Takpabio Abbas drop plan to spend 110 billion naira on bulletproof cars. Stories above on page 8. Insurgency. Military might alone can't solve crisis in Northeast. That's coming from VP Shetima. Tinubu affirms Africans' unity, warns against new scramble for continent. And lastly, on the front page of Vanguard, we have illegal firearm charge. Lawyers, activists demanding Emefiele's immediate release. All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with Tinubu. Africa must be active to compete globally. The writer says leaders pledge commitment to integration, cooperation. Stories above president set to unveil security plan, says Shetima. $50 million power plant to drive Lagos economy. Plan private sector driven. On page 5, ABC's neck hold Wednesday. Violent forces Olubadan to suspend Egungun festival. And lastly, on the front page of the Nation, inflation near 24% rate. All right, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is leading with decongesting Lagos port. Cash crunch, investors' apathy, store $8.5 billion deep sea port project. On page 4, why president must avoid illegal tenure extension for public officers. Serap urges National Assembly to drop plan for 110 billion naira bulletproof cars. Others. Again, cement price hit 6,000 naira over logistics, haulage cost. Stories above. Tinubu Ruto calls for financially autonomous AU, rejects fresh scramble for Africa. Lastly, on the front page of The Guardian, ABC neck, anxiety over resignation of Abdullahi Adamu. All right, so let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with controversy over alleged resignation of APC chair Adamu. The writer says Adamu allegedly forced to resign 2 days before neck meeting. Party spokesperson Mom, NWC member, other sources divided over resignation. Kyari may chair NWC meeting. And also we can see a photo story showing the president and all the leaders resist new scramble for Africa. Tinubu tells AU Forum, President Bola Tinubu at the fifth mid-year coordination meeting between the African Union, regional economic communities, and regional mechanism in Nairobi, Kenya. And on pages 4 and 5, NDLEA nabs Euro bound undergraduate Lagos lawyer with drugs. World Bank links Lagos building collapse to poor regulation. Stories above. We have IG withdraws a mobile policemen from ex-governors, ministers, VIPs. You can read more on page 2. NEC may okay tariff hike as electricity subsidy hit 2.8 trillion naira. And on page 8, anger as senator defends 70 billion naira palliatives for lawmakers. Lastly, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, 43 million Nigerians shut out of Buhari's cash transfer. And that's coming from a report. And that's all we can take on the front pages of the papers this morning. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining still today in the news on Vanguard Life, I am Precious Chukudi. Joining me to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of the paper this morning is Mr. Ali Mohammed. He's the CEO of Magnet Communications, also for my detail Daily Times and Concord Newspaper. Good morning, sir. Good to have you join
Morning,
this morning.
Precious. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. All right, let's delve in. I mean, we're still talking about subsidy removal and palliatives. Now, according to reports, we're hearing that the 200,000 naira minimum wage put forward by Labour is still debated, as some governors have restated their inability to pay the current minimum wage. What's your take?
Well, I knew from day one that the NLC proposed a minimum wage of 200,000 per month for Nigerian workers, that proposal was going to meet a very stiff opposition from government. Because if you sit down and look at it, government income is dwindling very, very, very fast. In the midst of oil theft, which is the major thing that we export from our territory, in the midst of stolen funds, heavy corruption, in the midst of wasteful spending. I don't know how the state governments want to pay 200,000 naira per worker. You see, with the removal of this subsidy, which I support quite fine, one thing I expected the government to have done is to kickstart a process of getting our 4 refineries working immediately. Because the truth of the matter is that for as long as we continue to import refined products with dollar at the present rate, the price of petroleum products in Nigeria will continue to rise. Once the dollar goes up and they import petroleum products within that period, the price will go up because it has been deregulated. Again, there is no competition at that level. There is no locally produced refined products. So all we are relying on now is the importation of refined products. I don't think any government that knows what it is doing will sit down and allow for total importation of refined products into the country. That is the truth of the matter. The earlier we get our refineries working, if those refineries can no longer function, we should issue license to private organizations. There are so many private organizations that still want to go into the oil sector. They want to build refineries, but they don't get license. They can't get it. They find it difficult because there is a bidding round, I think once every year, for that license. And once it is done for a year, any company that fails to get a license for that year will wait for another year. And that has not even been done in the last 4 or 5 years. We are not helping the growth of this country by allowing our refineries to be dead. We need to revive them. If we can, let us give license to people to establish small refineries, modular refineries, manageable refineries that can give at least 10 to 15, 20,000 barrels per day. Then you have created a level playing field in that sector. I have said this more than 10 times on this program. You would have created a level playing field in that sector in the sense that those who want to import should not be deprived of that privilege. You are importing at your own risk and expenses. Those who are producing locally, once they are up to 10, the price will naturally crash. Even look at the current price of petroleum products. You go into some petrol stations now, they are empty because people can't afford to buy at the rates they are selling. A lot of people have parked their cars. A friend told me that he has bought packs of BRT tickets, and I laughed. What if you have to take your family out? He said he will get a taxi. It's cheaper to get a taxi now. So those are the efforts to cushion the effects of the increase in petroleum products by Nigerian citizens. So it is laughable that the nation that is the chairman of African Union, the giant of Africa, don't have a functional refinery. There is no oil producing country in the world that don't refine locally except Nigeria. Go and check the records. It is unfortunate. We've had Buhari for 8 years. Let us assume that the past government didn't prioritize that. But the moment this so-called subsidy payment kept rising, you will expect a serious government like the Buhari's government to have kickstarted a process of ensuring that we have enough local refineries in Nigeria. But it didn't. Instead, government took billions of dollars to invest in the private refinery. There is nothing wrong in investing in any private organization. But what we are hearing now is that Dangote refinery may not work, may not produce refined petroleum products until 2028. I don't know how far that is true. So all the ceremonies, all the attempts by the past government to make us believe that once that Dangote refineries come on stream, that our problems is solved. It's a joke. I told you on this program that I don't believe in Dangote refinery because that man thrives so much on monopoly.
All right, Mr. Ali,
Yes, ma'am.
so since going back to this whole minimum wage thing, we learned through the report also that the president seems to be quite unperturbed about the asking new minimum wage, because during his inauguration he had said that he wants to give Nigerians a living wage. Also, there are people who are also of the opinion that the money that is saved from subsidy removal and all these policies will be allocated to states to enable them to pay the new wages. What do you think about that?
I want to commend President Tinubu over his wish to have a living wage paid to workers. But if you sit down and look at the records, take a look at the brass tags, you see that we are not financially placed to give Nigerian workers a living wage. There are so many leakages in government finances, and it is unfortunate. If you look at what the MD Melekeyari of NNPC himself said, I think that may be an attempt to protect himself from being sacked, probably. He said subsidy have not been paid since 2016. And every year, every month, there was a budget for the payment of subsidy. So where has this subsidy payment been going into? Who are the people collecting this subsidy money that is budgeted annually, monthly, for the payment of subsidy on imported petrol? That should be the starting point with the Asiwaju's administration. It started well by sacking people, removing people. We should know how the subsidy money in the last 7 years has been spent. Otherwise, you cannot get to the root of the matter. You cannot deal with the problem of subsidy. You cannot even vote that subsidy money for any project because it is like something that is not in existence physically. From my own thinking, it is not. So how do you now vote what is not in existence for any project? That's why the man went to the National Assembly to request for 500 billion naira loan, $1 billion loan. Because the subsidy money is not in existence in any of the federation accounts from the way things are as at today. So I don't want to go deep into that, because if you go deep into that on here, we may be committing some crimes. But the truth of the matter is that, as far as I am concerned, this so-called subsidy money is not in existence. No savings have been made from the so-called payment of subsidy. If there were savings, this government would have fallen back on those savings and then move ahead with whatever the president wants to do in terms of cushioning the effects of the increase in the pump price of petroleum products. Because there won't be a need for him to ask the National Assembly for a loan, for approval for a loan. Why would you go for a loan when the tranche of subsidy money that have not been spent is there? It's not in existence. I dare the government to probe what I am saying. That is the truth of the matter. It was just a slush fund for a few privileged people. As far as I'm concerned, though, I stand to be corrected. But moving forward, the 8,000 naira so-called palliative, to me, is not going to solve any problem. We used to have a minister during Buhari's administration that was supposed to be crediting the accounts of some Nigerians with some money. Did you get part of the money? I didn't get a dime from that money.
Maybe because they don't identify you as one of the first of the four.
Because the truth of the matter is that we don't have the database to even identify those who are suffering in Nigeria. No database. So how would a government that will want my BVN anytime I want to do anything that has to do with government? The BVN thing, once I apply to government that I want this, you should click on your database and access it, not me providing it. That is the way it is done all over the world. If you go to the police now abroad and you say, my name is Aliu Mohammed, they usually have their computer there. They will click on it and it will bring out everything about you. But here, at a click, even the National Identification Center, Management Center, NIMC, if I mention my name, they can't click on their database to get my name. I'm the one that will still have to give my BVN to them before they can access their database with it. It is unfortunate. You see, so many things are wrong with our system here. If you have an appropriate database, you will sit down and discover that the so-called 8,000 naira is not going to solve any problem. Let us have refineries working in Nigeria.
Speaking about the 8,000 naira, even the informal sector workers have come out to say that the money is too small.
Even if it is increased to 20,000 naira, it's not going to solve any problem. If you have cheaper petroleum products, yes, you are solving the problem. Let us have functional refineries in Nigeria. That's the solution. The ordinary illiterates, they are refining products in the south zone of Nigeria. But when they are caught, the so-called system of refining will be destroyed by soldiers. If those guys can be doing it, I think they should be encouraged to have something bigger. That is, if government doesn't want to go into the establishment of refineries, we have young boys, the South boys, using their knowledge, traditional knowledge, to refine and separate kerosene, petrol, and other products from crude oil. Encourage these boys. Let them grow bigger. But once they are caught, their technology system is destroyed. Some of their buildings where they refine these things, the building will be destroyed or burnt. You are not encouraging local production of petroleum products, and you want to give stipends. How would that? I want somebody in government to come and tell me how that will solve the problem.
Yeah, speaking about the past administration, there was this trader money initiative that they were giving market women 10,000.
That is different.
And even at that, some of the market women still said they did not get that money. So the question now is, for this 8,000 naira to the 12 million household that the government has tagged as,
how did they arrive? How did they arrive at the 12 million household? How did they pick the household?
Yes, exactly.
Where is the database? Trader money was handled by the office of the vice president. It was for a day. There is this minister of intergovernmental, one Aisha like that from the north, that was in charge of distribution of or transfer of money to people's account, how many Nigerians have benefited? I'm talking of billions of naira. If you kept track of what happened during Buhari's administration, she was given that task of distributing billions to the account of Nigerians. How many people benefited? It was nothing but a mere slush fund for government officials. So as much as I believe that the present government can do a lot to improve the present suffering of the people due to the regulation of the downstream sector of the petroleum industry, we should come up with appropriate policy, appropriate and effective policies that would directly affect the people. If transportation costs, if we have refinery and transportation cost comes down, NLC will not come up and say they want 200,000. Because as a president, I will want to know the basis for their demand. But right now, they have a lot of reasons to ask for 200,000. The price of food has gone up, and we all know that once transportation goes up, the price of food will go up. Even the things that are not food here, they are affected. I wanted a microphone for a purpose. I saw it and I said, look, I don't want this one. The next time I went back, the price has gone from 9,500 to 21,000 within 2 weeks. And I was dazed. These are not things, these are things that are not that are transported from day to day. The transportation comes once and the distribution comes once. But suddenly you discover that if you go to a supermarket to look for something now, if you don't buy it now, the next time you come, the price has jumped. That is the level of inflation that we have in Nigeria. And government doesn't even have the data on the rate of inflation as at today. Nobody is giving us all those things. In advanced countries, you have people telling you that inflation rate is 56%, for instance, is going down, is rising or whatever. Nobody gives us that information. The economy is on a free fall. So the government of Asiwaju should sit down and take proactive steps to get the support of the people by ensuring that hunger and starvation is reduced in this society as at today. Because those boys on the streets, they are not laughing. They bubble cast now at night. I have experienced it personally. People trying to knock at the car door at night. I will just zoom off. I don't know what will happen in the coming days if care is not taken.
All right, let's move ahead. And now, lawyers and civil society organizations have condemned the continued detention and illegal firearm charge filed by DSS against Emefiele, despite the orders of the court. What are your thoughts on this one?
That's the charges filed against Emefiele as against the purported crimes that he committed as listed for the reasons for their arrests of Emefiele makes the whole exercise look laughable.
Some people think he's being witch-hunted by the present government.
No, you see, you can't conclude. There are reasons to arrest Emefiele. They may not be for criminal activities. They may want to investigate it. That a sitting CBN governor came out to contest for the presidency. It's against the law. That for whatever reasons, Nigerians were starved of having access to their money. They couldn't have access to their money for weeks. I have never gone out without a naira on my pocket. It happened at that time. So at that point, I was afraid to leave my house. I will simply stay at home because, this is an economy where we spend cash. We are not used to using POS, using card and all that like in the advanced countries. During that period, my money that got trapped in the process of transfer was over 100,000. You transfer money, it won't get there. You have to pay twice, especially buying petrol, buying little things for the house. So I had to be going from bank A to bank B, where I use their cards to plead with them. Some of them stayed till a month before it was reversed, before they were reversed. Some of them have not been reversed. I don't want to mention the bank. I have written a stinker to them last week that look, it's over 3 months or 4 months now that I am requesting for a reverse, and it has not been done. So those are the things that Emefiele did. Whether they are criminal or not, it is left for the law enforcement agents to decide. Again, they came out to accuse him of terrorism. That means that offense was not true. So why did you have to spoil the man's name, calling the dog a bad name? Because you want to hang it. And you now come out and say you caught him with a Beretta pistol. It is laughable, Precious. It is laughable. If we have secret policemen that can't do a thorough job, then they should stop embarrassing individuals. I want to say that they should release Emefiele. Honestly,